Dear friends, throughout today, I want to discuss the part of dependent origination that's focusing on the six senses, the corresponding external objects, the experience that arises from that, the feeling that arises from that, the craving and clinging that arises from that, and the impulse towards existence or towards becoming that arises from that. So this is the middle part of the traditional standard 12-factor description of dependent origination. One of the most important themes for meditation is trying to cultivate awareness of the senses and the very first initial arising of experience from the senses. In ordinary superficial awareness, by the time we become aware of something, already there's been some kind of activation, could be some kind of emotional arousal or some kind of getting involved in making a decision or making a plan, undertaking some activity. And the initial contact through the senses that started the process is sort of lost in oblivion because our awareness is not sharp enough and it's not really paying attention at that level. So in order to, it's something called yoniso manasikara, which is translated as clear comprehension. The yoni literally is the womb, like a woman's womb. And so yoniso means you're going down to the very beginning where was the baby conceived? Where did the baby start from? Going down to the matrix. Where was the pattern? This person came from something. Where did the design of you come from? Well, you could say you got the design from your parents. So it was the matrix, or you could think of it as being like if you're making a brass statue, you would carve the statue in wood or some kind of material, and then you would cover that with clay to get a matrix that's got the exact form that you're seeking for, and then separate the matrix out, and then you pour the brass or your final material into the matrix. So the yoniso manasikara is looking for, you want to get down to the fundamental matrix of our experience. And the Buddha strongly recommends developing mindful awareness of the six senses and initial contact of experience on the six senses. So the first five senses are involved with our way of encountering and experiencing the external world. There is an external visible object there is the I, which is not only referring to the jelly-like material that we have on our face, but also sort of like the physical nervous system apparatus, or the physical brain apparatus, which is involved in the seeing faculty. And then there is what's called the I consciousness, which you could say is the mind capacity, the knowing faculty, which is capable of apprehending a visible object. There's what they call a triple conjunction, a meeting of these three factors: the visible object, the eye seeing faculty, the eye faculty, and the I consciousness, arising, coming together in a momentary kind of way. And the contact of those three, the meaning of those three, is called contact. So already, the way it's described, there's a distinction made between what's internal and what's external. That somehow we are the subject of our own experience, or you could say we're the hero of our own experience, the hero of the story of our own experience. And we are encountering things that are outside of us, which are the objects. So we have this subject-object duality is already begins to be implied. But at the level of the eye and the eye contact, there's not any intellectualizing or thinking about it. It's just the bare initial experience. So you might just see like a color. You might just see a shadow or a blob or something like that, and you might not recognize it as being a person or a Buddha image or a candle. And likewise, there is the ear, which is sensitive to sound, the nose, which is capable of apprehending smells, odors, the tongue, which is capable of apprehending taste, and the body, which is able to apprehend touch. So each one of those 5 faculties has a domain. Now, if you think about it just for a minute, you'll know that they're not really happening separately, but they're happening all together. So when you eat your meal, both smelling and tasting are engaged. And you wouldn't have anything like the same experience with food if you didn't have the faculty of smelling in good order. This is what we're learning with our pandemic, because people have an injury to their sense of smell, and they're finding it's difficult to eat because food doesn't smell the way it ought to. One of the faculties, one of the functions of the mind is integrating these inputs and synthesizing them together into something that we understand as being an object. I would comment about the sense of touch in the body. With the meditation of doing the body scanning and many other meditations and teachings, the touching that enables us to encounter the outside world, in other words, the sensitive capacity that we have on the skin and just under the skin, that enables us to discern the qualities of the material world which we encounter through that physical contact. That's the major meaning of touch. There are other things that we're experiencing through the body that are part, you could say, part of touch, but they're not really emphasized in the traditional teaching so much. For example, you can feel your heart beating if you're still. So the heart is beating inside the body, and you can feel that. That's part of the touch. You can feel the vibration of energetic vibration within the body, like the nerve cells or the flowing of blood throughout the body. And so you can have this like a sensation of the energetic qualities internal to the body. That's also part of touch. When certain kinds of hormones are generated, like because of pleasure or pain or excitement or digestion, those changes in the body are experienced by us. And that's also considered part of touch. There's one that I always thought they should have made it the seventh sense because it's so unique and distinctive. And that is on the inner ear, the faculty of our sense of balance, where we're able to discern whether the body is upright or lying down, or, is it at an angle like that. So it's gives us what I think they call proprioception, which it is able to discern our orientation in relationship to gravity. And it's a very unique apparatus that we have for that, which is kind of like specialized. But nevertheless, it's not mentioned in the traditional teachings, and it's just included within touch. Some people, they have a kind of like a sensory awareness as like their orientation, that they're very tuned in, and it's very easy for them to discern things that are happening outside that are coming in through the senses, through the external, through the five senses. Other people are less tuned in to the five senses and are quite a bit tuned into what's happening inside the body. So that part of touching, like basically the body is reacting to experiences by giving different kind of like emotional signals, and we can sort of know intuitively what the meaning is. So if if you're having a conversation and suddenly you get a little like acid reflux, you get a little like heartburn in the middle of this stressful conversation. And so a person who's got that internal orientation could like be very clear and accurate about knowing, something happened inside the body, which is giving them a signal and advising them about what's going on. And they might be are like not so much tuned in to things outside. So like the expression on the other person's face or something like that might not be as memorable or as easy for them to see. But part of the meditation of observing our experience through these sense bases is to try to just train our awareness to be present for what's arising in the here and now through these contacts at the 6 sense bases. In meditating in the cushion practice, when there's not any need to be responding or getting into a conversation, making a decision, taking an action, doing a plan, you don't have to be involved with all of those activities. The only activity that you need is to stay still and pay attention. And so this is a very fruitful time on the meditation cushion to develop, to train the mind to see and perceive in real time what's arising moment by moment through the senses. In the dependent origination, it mentions that because of name and form, there's the arising of the 6 sense bases. So the name and form is referring to an individual, a person who's got the physical aspect and the mental aspect are both existing in the individual. We're going to discuss this aspect about how this individual came to be tomorrow. But just take it for granted that there you are, you're an individual, you've got a body mind. And that is manifesting through the capacity to encounter the world through the 5 senses, the 5 physical senses, and also the 6th sense, which is the mind, which is able to apprehend and experience ideas. There are many different mental factors, like feeling, perception, volition, even energy, tranquility, all these different factors that we develop in our practice. Those are mental. Having loving kindness, that's a mental activity. So mentality is a very wide aspect, but this mental ayatana, this is the domain which is able to know an idea. The mental sense has a way of knowing and integrating the inputs coming from the other 5 senses. And the mental sense also is able to apprehend things that are purely mental, like in the book, there's a book called The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, which is about neuroscience. And it tells the story of 2 autistic twins who really enjoyed square roots. They just found square roots to be so, no, it wasn't square roots, it was prime numbers. They loved prime numbers and they enjoyed prime numbers, and they were able to immediately and directly, without having to figure it out, they could just say 7. And the brothers would enjoy talking to each other, and that's a 7. And they would just contemplate 7. So that's an idea. That's a contemplation of an idea. The Dhamma ideas are called Dhammas. You use a Dhammas with a small d. And you could include in Dhammas, the Dha in Dhamma means to hold or to carry. Our community, our nuns community, is called the Dhamma Dharini. So we've got that Dha in our name. And so we are women who are holding the Dhamma. Dhamma in that sense is any phenomenon which is able to be held by the mind. And that's kind of like all we have to work with. If there's a phenomenon out there that's not able to be experienced and known by the mind, that's not able to be held by the mind, we don't need to worry about it. So the Buddha is interested in finding the way to awakening, the way to liberation, which is not, some fairy tale that is not able to be experienced. He's looking for something that is able to be experienced, that is able to be known by human beings. So whatever is going on, in addition to whatever's happening, also the mind knows what's going on. As a result of the meeting of the 6 sense bases and their corresponding types of objects, there is a contact that's like the first instant of experience. So during your meditation, try to see how long it takes you to notice what's happening. And then based on contact, the very next thing that arises is called Vedana, or feeling. Feeling gives one of the teachers who teaches this course, a similar course, is that Vedana brings meaning to life. So is it good for you or bad for you? Do I like it or don't I like it? Is it something that makes me want to shrink away, turn away? Or is it something that makes me want to push back? Or is it something that makes me want to open up and receive the experience? Vedana is karmically neutral there are not skillful and unskillful feelings. A feeling is just a feeling. But a feeling can prompt us to do a lot of things that are involving karma, the choices that we make. A wonderful aspect of meditation is to make the effort and try to allow a feeling to be just a feeling. So we don't need to do anything further about the feeling except to recognize it. One of the kinds of meditation that many people do is loving kindness meditation, or the 4 divine abidings: loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. For most people, bringing up the thought of loving kindness, if you think, may I be well, happy, and peaceful, may no harm come to me, may no difficulties come to me, may I be safe and secure. And if you call to mind, like, what is really for your welfare, what's really good for you, just calling that to mind makes you feel happy. For most people, that's a pleasant feeling. And then projecting that out to others, may all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. For most people, the loving kindness meditation is so close and related to human love, ordinary common love, which is something which is very good for us, very healthy for us. It's for our welfare to be able to love. And love is pleasant for most people. And so the pleasant feeling associated with metta meditation can make that one of the easiest meditations to do, because the mind is willing to stay in that meditation. If we asked you to do like the straight Satipatthana, the 4 foundations of mindfulness, that's much more extremely objective, and you're giving equal awareness to what arises that's pleasant or what arises that's unpleasant, and just simply seeing what's arising, seeing the existence and the passing away, and so that kind of meditation could be more difficult for some people, because it's sort of like it's kind of like cold and analytical and objective and scientific, and it's not kind of like giving them the fuzzy feedback, so you're not getting the help of the pleasant feeling. So it's very much okay to take a wholesome object like loving kindness and allow the pleasant feeling connected to loving kindness to help you to stay in your meditation. It would not be advisable to take some kind of a sensual gratification and take let's say we think about, in my time zone, breakfast is coming along soon. And so like thinking about breakfast and, meditating on toast or something like that, and how delicious it's going to be, that would be something that would be feeding, cultivating and supporting and stabilizing the mind into greed. And that's not going to be so beneficial for practice. And so we don't, we recommend being, like kind of like selective or cautious in using Vedana within your meditation practice. There's only a few pleasant meditations that are considered to be safe ground. Besides the loving kindness practice, the jhana practice, or the concentration, what they call concentration or samadhi, is also a safe ground of meditation, which is very pleasant. If you are working with understanding and releasing and letting go of the hindrances, letting go of the negativities in the mind, practicing staying with your object of meditation without letting the mind be distracted, letting the mind become stabilized, resting on an object of meditation. It can come to you that, whether it be for a short time or for a long time, that you forget to be greedy, angry, lazy, nervous, or skeptical, that the hindrances are disappeared. And if you realize that you're in a state that the mind is not disturbed by hindrances or negative states of mind, and because of that, you're very easily able to stay with your object of meditation, that can be so joyful. And there is pleasant feeling that accompanies that. And you don't need to be afraid of that kind of pleasant feeling. That's something that's a helper along the way in your meditation. There are also some unpleasant feelings that can help you in your practice. If you begin to have a glimpse of what awakening would be like, but you know that you're not there yet, and this mind is still slipping back into negativity, still slipping into, greed and hatred and so forth. But you can see the path ahead. You can see what you're aiming for, but you're not there yet. There is what they call a spiritual unpleasant feeling of being like dissatisfied, to be like not yet awake, which is sort of like a motivation that can give you the energy to want to continue to devote yourself to the practice, devote yourself to the Buddha's teachings, and to do these practices in in confidence that it's going to have that onward leading quality, bringing you towards awakening, towards the release from dukkha. Using feeling as a factor that is energizing your practice is it's okay. Don't make it a problem, but it will come a point when that sort of also drops away and you become like not interested in feeling anymore. All the other range of feelings that is associated with what it's like the equipment that we inherited when we took a human birth, or when we were born as a sentient animal type of being. We inherited the equipment which is designed for us to get more life, to live longer, to have a life that's even above the bare minimum of survival, but a life that's got a little bit of safety and stability, and to avoid danger, to avoid any threat, avoid anything that would be cutting off this life. That's the major function of Vedana, is giving us a rapid response faculty so that we can take the toast that we need to get through the morning, and so that we would avoid something that was a danger. And those feelings are good for us to be able to live another day and take care of ourselves, but they're not good for much as far as our practice of meditation. And while we are practicing meditation, if you can sort of have a patient and a tolerant attitude towards the feelings that come along. So if there's a painful feeling, don't make it more of a problem. It's just a painful feeling. So, okay, there it is. I know that. I've seen that before and I see it now. If there's a pleasant feeling, a sensual, pleasant feeling, don't get too excited about it. Just say, okay, there's a pleasant feeling. I've seen that before. I recognize that. Just see it what it is without picking it up and taking it on board and getting sort of like activated around that feeling. Some people, depending on their personality, have a tendency to be cut off from their feeling. So, and especially when they come to like formal meditation practice, like while they're out and about in the world and they're, in love with their family or in love with their partner, or they're having a fight with their partner, they kind of know at that level if it's pleasant or unpleasant. But if they sit down on the meditation cushion and say, okay, what's the feeling? Is it pleasant or unpleasant? And don't know. Can't find anything, not able to recognize anything. And so that kind of person, I am that kind of person. And what I had to do in order to overcome that tendency to be a little bit like an ignoramus as far as recognizing feeling, I finally came to making an inference. If I come to meditation and if the mind is able to stay with the meditation object, then that's got a pleasant feeling. If the mind leaves the meditation object and goes to the toast that's going to come along in 20 minutes, it's because the toast is pleasant. So every time the mind moves, the mind is like moving towards what it likes, what it wants to think about, and moving away from something that's unpleasant or difficult. So if one is sitting in meditation, and it could be that, let's say there's some physical pain going on, like the knees hurt or the back hurts or something like that. For some people, that the painful physical feeling can make the mind very restless, and the mind is not easily able to settle into meditation because of being destabilized by unpleasant feeling. And so, anyways, by means of that, following that process of inference and some reasoning, I had to sort of like go through a process of training myself to be able to easily recognize Vedana, recognize what's painful, what's pleasant. In psychology, this is about the personality types. There's one personality type who like evaluates their experiences about like, this is good for me or it's bad for me. And it's like coming up, it's like from the feeling, it's very natural. They can tell this is good because it feels good. And then there's a different type of personality. That's the type I have, which is not tuned into the feeling. And instead, I have a system, like according to the precepts of morality and applying logic to the situation, I can infer that it's in agreement with the rules or it's against the rules. And that's how I would like to decide whether something is good or bad. The balanced mind can do all of these things, but Vedana is so powerful. We got to learn how to recognize our Vedana, our feeling, to see what's happening, and as much as possible to see it when it's like a more of the subtle level, and not when it's arisen to be a very strong, powerful feeling only. There's actually 3 Vedanas, pleasant, unpleasant, and the in-between is called neither pleasant nor unpleasant. That would be like neutral. What does the neutral feeling do? Well, it gives us a rest. We don't have to reach out and grab or hold on to the neutral feeling, and we don't need to push away or get rid of the neutral feeling. So the neutral feeling is not like a triggering our psychological activities. And it's actually really important to have a neutral feeling because you only have so many brain cells. There's only so much activation that you can tolerate. And so then our system gives us a certain space of neutral feelings, which like doesn't require anything. Neutral feeling, if we're not being skillful, the tendency is that we don't notice the neutral feelings. We notice the pleasant and unpleasant, and we, especially the ones that are powerfully pleasant, powerfully unpleasant, we really notice them and we remember them. But we don't remember or notice things that are neutral. However, neutral feeling is really a friend to our meditation practice because it has the quality of supporting peace and tranquility and calmness. So during meditation, if you notice neutral feeling, how can you recognize it? You can recognize it because it's not pulling you or pushing you in one direction or another. It's just neutral. Try, like, as finely as you're able to distinguish one moment from another moment, try to give an equal amount of attention to each moment. And you might discover that there are 8 or 9 neutral moments to one pleasant or unpleasant moment. And so if you can discover and clearly see that there's quite a big space of neutral Vedana, neutral feeling, it just gives you freedom to not be triggered by the pleasant and unpleasant. let's say like, the knee hurts or the back hurts or there's some like a physical pain, and that's unpleasant. But the unpleasant is not really the whole story. It's only a part of the story, and it's a fairly small part of the story. There are also many other neutral moments. And likewise, the anticipation of some kind of pleasant experience that, would drive us to do actions and undertake things that have a karmic result. We got a freedom, we can take it or leave it, because that pleasant feeling is not the whole picture, it's only part of the picture. So I think that's enough for this morning. Save your questions, and at the next Dhamma discussion period, I'm going to give a larger amount of time for your discussion. So please have a pleasant morning, and we'll see you at 12:30 in California time. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.